Hi everyone, this is Mr Neel Raithatha, also known as the Wax Whisperer. Thank you for joining me today in what is a world premiere of our new device that we've developed called the WAXscope. So hopefully during the course of this video I'm going to discuss the WAXscope and its benefits and what inspired me to develop the WAXscope. Now it's not currently commercially available. We're probably 2 or 3 months away, but we're just starting to manufacture now. We also filed for our patent application, which I should disclose for legal purposes, which is UK patent application number 2206142.8. So the WAXscope is something that I have been working on for many years. In fact, it's been 7 years. I still remember the day vividly when the concept came to mind. It has taken a while, in part because it just had other things going on, not least just running the clinic day to day as well. But in fact, I think that's a good thing because it's given me time to become more observant about what needs to be, why I'm developing it, and the improvements that needed to be made, and obstacles that needed to become overcome. And that only comes with experience. The more procedures you do, you learn about the nuances. So in a way, I'm grateful for that delay. So the WAXscope, it's different to the endoscope. Now I'm just going to briefly explain the endoscope first and the pros and cons, and then we'll go on to the WAXscope and other devices that are out there. There's no getting away from the fact that an endoscope, it's unparalleled in terms of the field of view. You just can't compete with an endoscope in terms of the visual, the optics. And that's why an endoscope in part is being used so widely in surgery, because when you insert the endoscope into a body orifice, or in this case the ear canal, it's like you're inside the ear. You can see all the way around you. Now specifically in terms of the ear, we're not using a speculum to stretch and open the ear, and part of that's because obviously in an endoscope you don't want it to be, the view to be limited. So instead, when you're using an endoscope to remove earwax, you have to use the tip of the endoscope, which is being held by your non-dominant hand, to straighten and widen the ear canal, not only to visualize the wax, but also to allow entrance of the device that you're using to remove the wax. That over the years become to kind of, it is apparent that not everyone can do that. It does require a certain skill level, and that's because you need to have what we call bilateral integration and coordination, and through no fault of anyone, it's just we don't all possess as humans all the skills to perform everything. Some people are far better than some things than others because they have a certain skill set, and it's the same with using an endoscope. So in an endoscope, although the benefits are unparalleled once you've mastered how to use an endoscope, but not everyone can master the endoscope because you're having to use that your left and right hand simultaneously, which can be a bit difficult. So other devices on the market are that are used to remove earwax. The most probably common one in terms of when you're looking at ENT, they use an operating ENT microscope. An operating ENT microscope has the benefits of unrivaled magnification and also depth perception, because you're using both eyes to visualize through the microscope into the ear. The ENT microscope does a correction, so it kind of converges your eyes so they're artificially closer together, because the way you develop depth perception with binocular vision, you need to be able to visualize the object that you're trying to see with both eyes. Now with an ear it's very difficult because it's narrow, it's bendy, and without the microscope converging your eyes artificially, you just wouldn't be able to see the object. So that's what an ENT operating microscope can do. Although if the ear is very, very narrow and the earwax is very deep, we may even struggle with depth perception fully with binocular vision with a microscope. So I'll just come back to that in a moment. So you can see now I'm just using a fine end suction probe. We're just going very deep in the ear. This is nearly on the eardrum. In fact, some of it was on the eardrum. And we're going to go back in. We're going to see the ear. And we're going to adjust the focus so you can get the eardrum in focus now. and you can see the eardrums in focus. You can see the little white patches. Patient has got some tympanosclerosis possibly, but also they do get water in the ear, and water, and I've advised them not to, it can cause a bit of this wrinkling sensation. Now, these particular patients that I'm using to demonstrate the WAXscopes have been specifically chosen because they are more complex cases, because their ears narrow, they're bendy, they're hairy, and the wax does extend and dead skin up to the eardrum. These are the kind of cases where some people will struggle with using any device really to remove earwax. So the benefits, as I said, of a microscope, magnification, and a lot of the time you're getting the depth perception. The negatives are they're not portable, they weigh a ton, it's not something you can cart around. They're very, very expensive. They do require a high level of training to use, and also it's very easy, so should I say, to lose focus of what you're looking at in the ear with a microscope. Sometimes, if you move yourself or the patient moves, it does offset the focus, even the smallest movement, and you're going to have to constantly reposition and get the focus back. A more of a watered down device that's used by audiologists and other health professionals in the UK to remove earwax is head loops. Now, there are some head loops that have the binocular vision, so you can they artificially converge your eyes to see deep in the ear. Again, if the ear is narrow, twisty, it may not always be possible still, but there is technology available in so it's the kind of ENT microscope head loops, if you like. But most head loops, they don't artificially converge the eyes, so you do kind of lose that depth perception. Now, with an endoscope, actually, we don't actually use traditional binocular vision because you're looking on a 2D screen. But with an endoscope, you do develop the depth perception just because you've got that field of view. You can enable you to feel about where you are in the ear because you're seeing everything a lot better. So with the head loops, the slight negative, you don't have that. But with head loops, you just lack the magnification. You're constantly having to adjust the focus by moving backwards and forwards yourself or getting the patient in the right position. So it is tricky in that respect. And now, I can say this from a position of knowing what I'm talking about in terms of head loops because, I mean, I got trained originally on head loops. I actually have an ENT microscope. I've got two actually at my clinic. So I've been, using all these devices, trying to work out the pros and cons and how I can improve upon that, and also the endoscope to develop the WAXscope. So the main issue for me with the microscope, with head loop, should I say, is that if the wax is near the entrance, fine, but as soon as you go halfway in the ear towards the eardrum, you really struggle with the view. In fact, a lot of training courses that train people using loops, and this is a strange paradox, they instruct their delegates to check that they've removed all the wax using the head loops by then looking into the ear with an otoscope, a traditional otoscope. So it kind of defeats the object, I feel. So I wouldn't feel comfortable someone going in my ear, removing wax, but then having to use another device to check that they have removed the wax. It's just a bit strange. But the benefits of a microscope, the loops that I've just discussed, is that they all use a speculum. So a speculum is like a funnel object. So you've got the tips, like a cone structure, it's hollow in the core, and that's used and it's what audiologists like myself have got trained in using from day zero in our training course. We have a magnifying lens, the otoscope, which we close one eye, peer through the other eye through the magnifying lens, and the otoscope, we put that in the ear and we stretch and widen the ear canal, just like I'm doing here. So I've removed all the wax there, and in a minute I'm just going to change the focus. Very easy on this WAXscope, I'll come back to that. Adjusted the focus, you can see the eardrum again, you can see those little white patches. This is patient 1, and patient 2 you're going to see in a moment, and we're going to use an ear hook. See, what I've tried to incorporate is a speculum, and it's almost like a hybrid device. You've got the endoscope, but you've got a speculum attached. Now technically this WAXscope is not an endoscope because it's not going in the ear. It can be given another name called an exoscope, but I think for just simplicity we're going to call it an otoscope because the core structure and design of it is to have an otoscope. So we've attached the speculum to the WAXscope, and we're using the speculum to widen and straighten the ear. And that was the whole concept behind the WAXscope. And by using the speculum, I feel that it's going to be more, well, not feel, it is going to be far more user-friendly for a wider demographic of healthcare professionals to get trained in this technology. And at the same time, I've really worked on some of the the kind of negatives of disadvantages and limitations of other technologies and worked on that. For instance, the focus change on this, it's so easy. You can see I'm going to adjust the focus in a minute, and we're going to visualize the wax a bit better, and that's just with a simple swipe of the finger. The magnification is great. You'll see in a moment with this patient, you're going to see the whole eardrum, and this patient's got glue ear. They've got fluid behind the eardrum. You can see these air bubbles that are trapped, and that's the attic, that's sucked in, that's retracted. And I'm going to adjust the focus in a minute, and you're going to see it even clearer. You just wouldn't get this view with the traditional loupes and magnifying glasses. Now, there is other technology that uses a speculum and a screen like what we've got here, but with that device, they're limited in certain ways. They're limited in terms of you can only use microsuction. You can't use other instruments like what we've just used here, an ear hook. Sometimes you're having to hold that suction device not from the handle but from the suction tubing because of the way the device has been developed. You're just not enough space. So it really reduces the manipulation available to when you've got the instrument in the ear. And I personally wouldn't want anyone in my ear not holding the instrument as it should intended to be so. And the instrument does become very blurry in view, and that's because the angle the instrument's inserted into the speculum, it's in direct line with the magnifying lens that's being used to view inside the ear. With this, we've developed it in such a way that the instrument's coming from a higher level, so it's a different angle of entry to the magnifying lens, so it doesn't blur the instrument. You can see the instrument for what it is, it doesn't disturb it. Our speculums that we're using, so this is a smaller speculum, this is the smaller one that we do, so they're going to come in different. You can just see that I just adjusted the focus very simply. We've got the suction probe going in, it looks like a suction probe, it's not distorted in any way. In fact, sometimes the view is actually better than with an endoscope, the clarity and the magnification. And so we're going to have 4 different sizes of speculum designed for different size ears. You can use any instruments with this, like I'm currently using with the iClearScope endoscope device. It's portable, it's lightweight, we can record videos. It really, I feel, ticks all the boxes, all the limitations of other devices, and that's including the endoscope in terms of straightening the ear canal. Yet the view, it's slightly compromised in terms of the field of view. You can't replicate that with any other device other than an endoscope. For our ClearWax delegates who already got the iClearScope, this attachment, the WAXscope, can just be brought separately and attached to your current system. So you replace the endoscope that you've got currently and you attach the WAXscope head onto your light source and onto your adapter and to connect to your smart device to visualize it. So in that sense, it's got some retrospective value as well. And you can see in a minute, I'm going into the ear and stretching the ear open. And you can actually see the blood vessels in the eardrum. That's how clear this view is. It'll be a bit better in a moment. I'm going to go a bit further in. You're going to see an air bubble there in the middle. So this patient's been blowing their nose and they've got an air bubble trap. There's no fluid behind this eardrum, but there is some negative pressure in the attic. You can see the blood vessels on the hammer bone. Stunning view, magnification, lightweight, portable. You can use all the instruments. Now, this is not currently on the market. We're just going through our manufacturing phase now, but everything else has been finalised, the prototypes. The speculums, we're going to get these injection moulded, so it's going to be a far better finish than what you've just seen, and that process is underway as we speak. So we're anticipating end of summer. For any healthcare professionals, earwax removal specialists interested in this, and we're hoping to be able to sell this around the world and get all the accreditation that's required, please do email info@clearwax.co.uk. So info@clearwax.co.uk, and we can put you on our mailing list. So nearer to the time when it's about to launch, we can inform you. And I hope you enjoyed that, and it gives you an overview of how earwax is removed currently, at least in the UK, and the pros and cons of all the different devices. Stay tuned, guys. Keep well, and I shall upload some more videos in due course. Bye.